At the House hearings on the Waco siege, emotional testimony is heard once again. Yesterday, a federal agent tearfully described his frustration at negotiating with cult leader David Koresh. Jim Kavanaugh said Koresh thought he was God and would never have surrendered. Kavanaugh was adamant that the Branch Davidians and not federal agents fired the first shot in the initial February 1993 raid.
We had already tried to get our wounded agent, who was trapped in an alcove back there next to the tower, Agent Kenny King. We tried to move a team to get him, but they just opened up on us.
Republicans are now focusing on the use of tear gas to end the siege. That last-ditch measure was approved by Attorney General Janet Reno. Reno is set to testify Monday.
Attorney General Janet Reno is defending her decision to use tear gas to end the standoff at the Branch Davidian compound, but she says no one will ever know what the right decision should have been.
In terms of Waco, I'm faced with the same position, that I could have gone in with a frontal assault, which could have been extraordinarily dangerous to all concerned, and we knew that up front. I could have waited, and I won't know and will never know what David Koresh might have done 6 days later, or 6 months later, or 6 years later.
Meantime, at yesterday's Waco hearings, the FBI's former Deputy Director Larry Potts says the goal of the gas attack was only to move negotiations along with David Koresh. Former FBI Director William Sessions is set to testify today.
In the news this Wednesday, the end of the Waco hearings. Attorney General Janet Reno blames cult leader David Koresh for the deaths of Branch Davidian children. But in hearings before the House Waco Committee, Reno took full responsibility for the decision to tear gas the compound. The gassing was followed by a fire and the deaths of some 80 cult members. Reno disputed claims that Koresh would have surrendered peacefully in time.
But when you tell me, because if you're correct, I lit a fuse that killed...
No, I didn't accuse you of doing that. I said we.
Okay.
I used the word W-E, we,
but
as a government.
It has been characterized, and I think that's the reason it's so important, that we are careful. I join with you in just saying...
Did you really think that I meant you?
I really did, sir, okay. And it hurts.
The panel is expected to issue a report on the hearings by early next year. Democrat Charles Schumer says they learned no new major facts.
The House Waco hearings are over, but we won't hear a final report for some months now. Democrat Charles Schumer says no major new details were revealed during the hearings, and committee co-chairman Bill Zeliff says the panel found no grand conspiracies, but did find some government agencies had lost touch with their missions. Attorney General Janet Reno testified yesterday that the deaths of the Branch Davidian children will haunt her.
This instance will be etched on my mind for the rest of my life. Those children, no matter how they were found, the fact that they are dead is a tragedy that will be with me for the rest of my life.
But Reno placed the blame for the death squarely on cult leader David Koresh. Reno also says she made the decision to tear gas the compound, which led to a fire and the deaths of some 80 cult members. Committee co-chairman Bill McCollum also says he's convinced the Davidians did start the fire, and he says he thinks President Clinton was not involved in the decision to gas the compound. Congressional Waco hearings come to a dramatic end with testimony by Attorney General Janet Reno, but it's not clear what House members have learned from all the testimony. Patrick McGrath has more.
Some House Republicans tried hard to pin the blame for Waco on President Clinton.
Leaders do not dodge. They do not let others take the blame.
But the final witness, Attorney General Janet Reno, testified that presidents ought not to interfere with law enforcement, and on Waco, Bill Clinton didn't.
He did not intervene in law enforcement issues except to ask good questions and to make sure that we had explored every opportunity. Some people say the president didn't take enough responsibility, and then during the course of these hearings, other people have said he exercised too much responsibility. I think he did just right.
After 10 days and almost 100 witnesses, the Waco hearings did not produce any dramatic evidence that President Clinton was anything more than a chief executive who accepted the advice of Reno and his top law enforcement officials, that the situation inside the Branch Davidian compound had deteriorated to the point where it was necessary to use tear gas to try to end the Waco siege. Koresh and his lieutenants responded by setting fire to the building, killing more than 80 people. Reno testified the gas was safe to use against children, but some Republicans disagreed.
But after hours of gassing, undoubtedly tortured these infants before they were finally suffocated, according to the autopsy reports. Knowing this today, would you still proceed in the same manner?
Those children, no matter how they were found, the fact that they are dead is a tragedy that will be with me for the rest of my life. You do not have to talk in those terms. What we have got to do is to work together to avoid such tragedies for the future.
In the more than 2 years since Waco, Reno says the FBI has significantly improved its manpower and training for dealing with future hostage barricade situations. From Capitol Hill, Patrick McGrath, Fox News.